This is our CAMPO meeting of March 12th and call to order. And with that, can we have the roll call, please?
Sure.
Here.
Oops, Chair Novak. Vice Chair Maloney. Member Bagwell. Member Casanelli. Member Dodson. Member Erb. Member Schutte.
Here.
Member ex officio, Member Rosenberg.
Rebecca Capular here for Sandra Rosenberg.
A quorum's present.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Our next item, item 3, our first opportunity for public comment. Do we have any folks in the audience that want to come up at this point? I guess not. Okay, we'll have some other opportunities later on. Next one, item 4, possible action, approval of our minutes of the February 12th, 2025 meeting. Any comments? Nope. Okay,
You ready for a motion? The minutes? Second?
all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, that passes unanimously. Okay, next item. Item 5A for possible action, so there will be some public comment involved in that. Let's see what we got here. All right, possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding proposed formal amendment 25-02 to the Carson Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's federal fiscal year 2025 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, which makes various changes to multiple projects, including adding 2 new projects and revising the funding information on multiple projects. And Jared, you have that one? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Jared Cragen, Transportation Planner for the record. So the CAMPO Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, for federal fiscal years 2025 through 2028 is a federally required prioritized list of fiscally constrained projects. 2 projects were mistakenly included in the TIP, and I'll speak to those in a moment. As referred in the document revision history, this formal amendment to the CAMPO Transportation Improvement Program version 25-02 consists of funding and or schedule updates to US 50 Carson City from FRCC 11 to East Steer Run Road, US 50 Douglas County and Carson City, Spooner Summit Preservation, the Chavez Road Bridge, the Curry Street Complete Streets Improvement Project, College and Fairview Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. The new projects that were added to the CAMPO TIP include the FTA 5310 Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities, and the Solomon Road School Routes Improvement Project. The Carson City Safe Streets for All Grant Award Project on packet page 34, and the South Carson Multi-Use Path Connector Project on packet page 37 were not adopted into the CAMPO TIP 25-00 and were mistakenly brought forward to the 25-02 TIP amendment. The public comment period was open between February 22nd, 2025 through March 7th, 2025. 1 public comment was received and is reflective on the Curry Street Complete Streets Improvement Project, packet page 41 and 58. I recommend a motion to approve the amendment 25-02 to CAMPO's TIP without the 2 projects noted as they were not adopted in the 25-00 TIP. And with that, I'll take any questions or
Okay.
comments.
With that, do we have any questions or comments from CAMPO?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have you run that by me just a little bit more. So we're talking about excluding from 2502's amendment which 2 projects? Because they were not part of the original. Give me a little bit more.
I'll jump in and support Jared. Jared, if you have additional, please chime in as well. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. When we adopted 2500, the original TIP back last fall, those 2 projects were not included in 2500.
The 2 being fair.
The 2 being the multi-use path, South Carson multi-use path, and the Empire School Safe Streets and Roads for All project. Those were in the previous TIP, and they were not carried forward into our new fiscal year 25 through 28 TIP document. They were not in the previous amendment in 2501 either. So what happened here was when the packet was created for this board presentation, those two project sheets were mistakenly brought into this packet. They are not reflected in the dollar amounts. They're not reflected in any of the previous approvals. They're simply the two sheets for those two projects were included into this list of projects when they should not have been included in the list of projects. That's
Well, when
basically
will
what
they
happened.
be?
They won't be.
They won't ever be in the
Not
tip.
unless we re-engage them. They're from a previous TIP. They should not have been carried forward into the current TIP.
So, Chris, what you're saying essentially, there wasn't any funding identified for those two. You'd still like to do them, but with all the available money, you cannot.
Correct. They weren't fiscally constrained, and there wasn't enough funding to do those individual projects.
What packet page are the two projects that we're talking about,
Jared, do you have that?
please?
Which pages?
Packet page 34 and packet page 37.
34 and 37.
You'll notice on those two, there is no budget associated with them because they're not active projects.
So we're going to remove the projects and renumber the packet, or that numbering of page 34 is just for display purposes for
For
this,
this, yes.
for this meeting, but you'll remove page 34 and what was the other page? 37? So I guess my question then, if I may, Mr. Chair, I guess the question is, it's indicating there, though, that it was adopted in TIP 25, so I'm just slightly confused.
So
It wasn't given money, but it says it was adopted on 12/11 of 24. So,
it was not adopted as a project that was carried forward. The reason it shows on this sheet as going forward into 2500 is because the project was closed as part of the action of 2500. So upon approving action 2500, these projects
Should've-
essentially ended. They're done.
Okay.
These two projects, are not in the TIP.
that makes better sense, because this, well, the history, I got it. Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this? Do we have to have an amended tip, or what you just said, those two have been removed, so a motion to approve,
As amended?
we have to say is
Well,
amended.
I think the motion should be clear to remove the two projects, because there's additions, right, and subtractions. I just think the motion should be clear on what we're doing, since we initially had an error
Okay,
in
we'll
the first
fix that.
place.
Okay, before we take action on this one, do we have any public comment? Oh, okay. Well, do we need an amended motion then?
So, you want me to, let me see. So we're removing, I can do it if you'd like.
Sure.
I move to approve Amendment 25-02 to Campo's tip with the removal of the project listed on page 34 of the packet and page 37 of the packet.
I will second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor? I say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're on to item now 5B for possible action, discussion, and possible action regarding one, a Section 5339 capital assistance agreement with Douglas County for the distribution of $85,000 in available FTA Section 5339A program funds with required local match of $15,000 for an agreement total not to exceed amount of $100,000 to purchase an Americans with Disabilities Act accessible transport van for the Douglas Area Rural Transit Program, and 2, authority for the transportation manager to sign the agreement, as well as future amendments extending the term of this agreement. And Ms. Schutte, do we have a disclosure?
Yes, I do. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident in Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by my familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. This item is a follow-up to awarding a grant that CAMPO awarded Douglas County back in 2023 for the purchase of a transport van for their paratransit services for the Douglas Area Rural Transit. The agreement authorizes Douglas County to purchase the van and seek reimbursement for CAMPO for a total amount of $85,000. Douglas County is responsible for the $15,000 local match portion of that. This agreement sets forth the terms and conditions by which Douglas County DART has to purchase the vehicle, which includes CAMPO's policies and procedures and Federal Transit Administration purchase requirements, which have recently, as we know, been updated following the FTA triennial review last year. Once this agreement is approved, it'll move forward to Douglas County for their approval, and then Douglas County will begin purchasing the procurement, we'll put together the procurement documents, send that over to CAMPO for review, and then we'll be authorized to purchase the paratransit vehicle. Once the vehicle is purchased, they'll seek reimbursement through CAMPO for their $85,000. With that, I'm happy to take any questions on this agreement.
Any questions? Yes. Yes.
Just the question is, why is the termination date so far out to June 30th, 2030? Is this something that Douglas County's gonna, does it take that long to get the van? Why are we out to 2030 when we're on a federal fiscal year 22 and 23's money?
Yeah, the idea behind the termination date was based on the vehicle's useful life, which is, if it's a van, it's a 4-year useful life. So if the vehicle is purchased in 25, 4 years would be that, about that period, termination period. CAMPO will hold the title of the vehicle until through the useful life. So the agreement term will be through the useful life of the vehicle. That's the reason for that date.
I have to ask another question.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's no choice now. Now you opened up another can in my head there. You're saying the title as a lien holder or the owner is CAMPO? Because the liability, I think, is completely opposite of
Yeah.
DART.
Yeah,
DART
we're not
owning
going to be
it.
the operator. We're going to be licensed, and I think it outlines it in the agreement here. If you give me a moment, I can outline
Yeah.
where that is.
What?
Packet page 64, there's discussion here related to responsibilities and bullets. Number 7 talks about, oh, not number 7, apologize. Number 9 talks about insurance certificates and naming CAMPO with the insurance, proof of insurance, liability, compensation, collision, items like that. So the responsibility remains on DART for those items, but since we're providing the dollar amounts, we're providing the reimbursement amounts, we're going to hold, my understanding is we'll hold that title, but I can definitely see clarification on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam Tully,
Thank
Deputy
you.
DA.
I'm like, help here. I don't like this.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I'm looking at packet page 63, Article 6, Subpart 2. It's registration of vehicles purchased as part of the project shall be in the name of the subrecipient, that's Douglas, and CAMPO shall be identified as the lien holder.
There it is.
There it is. The certificate of title throughout the minimum useful life. So we'll be a lien holder during the useful life.
So if they get in an accident, we're not sued as Campo?
I don't. Sued is one question. Indemnified and defended is probably the better question, and we'd be indemnified and defended.
Mayor Bagwell, if I may, when you purchase assets with FTA dollars and you dispose of them before their useful life, you can sometimes owe money back to the feds, if you will. And so I presume that this is to protect us from that.
I just don't like having a title that I don't control the vehicle. I'm just putting that out there, but you're feeling that this safely defends us or indemnifies us, that Campo, who is Campo's insurance company?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's
I
plenty
don't
of
know
other
the answer.
provisions in the contract
Cover
that
this?
that we're named as additional insured. We have minimum insurance requirements, and we'd be I can't remember exactly the extent of indemnification, but we'd surely be indemnified and defended in the event of Douglas or Dart negligence or worse behavior.
Okay, I heard it on the record.
Okay, that's why we have the meetings to ask the questions.
No.
Anything from Douglas County? You guys ready?
You got big insurance to cover Campo, right? No, just giving you a bad time.
No, I don't. I know Community Services, my Transit is really looking forward to this ban. It's very needed
Oh, I'm sure.
with our aging population in the North County. So we appreciate being able to purchase this van. Thank you.
Good. I think we've heard about this before, and it's making it through the process. So, okay with that?
I just wanted to encourage staff to start a new folder since this will be FDA's first subrecipient for your next triennial. Good luck.
Got to be prepared.
I'm just saying.
Okay, before we take action, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, thank you. Vice Chair?
I move to approve the agreement as presented and to authorize the transportation manager to execute the agreement as well as future amendments extending the term of the agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Dotson? All righty. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, that is unanimous. Okay, next item, we're on to 6A, our Transportation Manager's Report. Chris, fill us in on what's new.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. A few items I wanted to note here. First of all, FTA related and triennial related is that all our submitted information following the FTA triennial review and compliance measures have been accepted by the FTA, and the triennial review is closed. So there's no more actions or activities. We're finished with
Very good.
that one for a couple of years. Definitely, FTA spoke to us a lot about, because we were working on this agreement at that time and said, here's what you need to do and here's what you need to think about for subrecipient agreements. So it's something that we've definitely got in the back of our minds. Also, FTA related, there are some DBE plan revisions that are necessary. So we're going to do some minor updates to our current JAC DBE plan and submit those to the FTA in the coming month, both mostly related to reporting requirements and how we track that. We need to provide some documentation related to that, and I can provide further updates on that later. Hopefully, they're just minor and administrative in nature, and that's my feeling at this point. We're continuing to work on our pavement survey. In fact, pavement survey is nearly completed. I believe the Douglas County portion of it is completed, and Douglas County has received their preliminary results. We're waiting to clean up a couple of roads that were unable to be surveyed in Carson City and get some final review of those. We're hoping to bring forward next month to this board a review of that, the results of that pavement survey and the PCI analysis. So look for that next month, but all is on schedule and we should complete this in the next couple months. Related to FTA Section 5339 and 5310 funding, as Congress prepares to pass a bill, fingers crossed, for the rest of fiscal year 25, the FTA will have additional funding for those two programs. So likely CAMPO will release a call for projects for similar 5339 funding and 5310 funding, similar to what we've done in the past. So that will be getting going here once Congress passes the bill for the rest of fiscal year 25. I wanted to note here that there's been a lot of news out of the federal government related to agency reviews of certain documents, including TIP, STIP, UPWP, RTP related documents. About a month ago, we got notice that all reviews of all documents now needed to go to US DOT headquarters for formal review to ensure compliance with administration executive orders. That's since been rescinded, and all reviews are going to be as they always were at the division office, at the regional offices. So no change to that, which is good news. It'll keep us on track and moving along on our projects and our TIP amendments and other reviews of documents. NDOT is also moving, and perhaps Ms. Capular can discuss this as well a little bit if she has any background on updating a new platform for the eSTIP or TIP platform, the software that produces and manages the STIP TIP platform. So in future TIP amendments, we could see different types of sheets, some updated presentation materials as NDOT transitions to that new software. Hopefully the learning curve's pretty easy as we get up to speed on that. We also plan to bring forward in the next couple of months, excuse me, a summary of our kind of plan and get some board input on the regional transportation plan update and the coordinated human services plan update. Looking for some board input as we start to kick off that process with our consultants, parametrics, and staff internally. And then lastly, we have also started the update, an amendment to our annual Unified Planning Work Program, and the monetary agreement for fiscal year 26 is underway, and we'll bring that forward in future board meetings as well. So that concludes my manager's report, and if there's any questions, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to entertain them.
Okay, we have any questions or comments from the board at all on this? Things are moving ahead. Okay, thank you very much. Next item we've added to the agenda, item 6B. It's given Nevada DOT a chance to give us a status report. They have their monthly board meeting on second Monday of the month, and I watched some of that, and a lot of things going on in Las Vegas for sure.
That's
So
for
you got,
sure.
you have a huge statewide program, and I heard Ely as well. So just fill us in on what's important to CAMPO at this point.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. And I do want to circle back to Chris's comment to the eSTIP and TIP. I will find out more information on that. I believe ideally the goal is not to work harder and is to work better. So I will confirm that and make sure I bring that update next month. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. It helps me, since this is a new format for us, to hear things like that. So it helps me know what you're looking for, and I really appreciate that. Also, just full disclosure, I had my eyes dilated today, so my arms aren't long enough, so you're going to have to bear with me and give me a little bit of grace here with my notes. We did amplified CAMPO's US 50 study, public survey study that they did by reposting it on our regional X, or formerly known as Twitter account. So we were trying to help you guys get that word out. The US 50 resurfacing East Shore Tahoe project will be beginning mid-April, and NDOT will resurface just over 13 miles of US 50 from the Spooner Summit trailhead near US 50 State Route 28 intersection to the Nevada-California border at state line. I have a lot of notes on that, but I highlighted some things that I feel are important, which include the safety aspects. Between Spooner Summit and Glenbrook, 2 double lines will be in the median, and this will create a 2-foot separation between the directions of traffic. And the goal for that is to help reduce potential head-on crashes. Another enhancement for safety is to reduce crossover crashes. They're going to be adding center rumble strips. They will be placed between Spooner Pass and Glenbrook. and other sections in the area to help alert and correct drivers who may unintentionally leave their lane. The other important component that I feel will enhance safety is certain sections of the roadway. Roadside guardrail will be replaced, and that's to also, again, to enhance the safety. Drivers can expect and anticipate lane reductions on US 50 through April to October of this year and next year. I'm thinking they said next year because they're thinking state fiscal year. Sorry about that. Speeds will be reduced to 35 mile per hour in this work zone. And last month I mentioned a lot of our fatalities are due to speeding and impairment. So on the record, as the mayor likes to say, I got it on the record. I just want to use this as an educational opportunity to remind people to be mindful in any speed limit, but especially a work zone while we have our families and friends out there trying to do some good in the community. This is timely because anyone who's been outside knows it's a little bit windy today. February 24th, there was a major wind event through the valley. There was a large truck that overturned. You may have seen that or been affected by it because the roadway was closed for about 2.5 hours to get the tow trucks out there. It was so windy we had to wait for that. Fortunately, there was nobody injured in this incident. There were gusts up to 68, 70 miles per hour, and typically through that event, the winds were around 47 to 50 miles per hour. I have no idea what they are today, but it's pretty windy. I know that because that's where I drove to get to my eye doctor. I want to just highlight our wind warning system just to give you a refresher if you don't know anything about it, or to remind you. We continuously monitor the wind speeds, and we have 5 different monitoring stations. During high wind events such as today, we have over 30 roadside signs that automatically post messages prohibiting high profile vehicles from driving through the valley. And the wind alerts are also posted on highway message signs, social media, highway advisory radio, and the 511 system. And the last update I have, and I think I might have hit this last month too, but March is typically Nevada Moves Month, and we partner with CAMPO and your Western Nevada Safe Routes to School program. And I just want to give a shout out to Scott Bohemier. He's a great champion and does a lot with the kids in the schools, and we just love Sally. But basically, the purpose of the Nevada Moves Month is for Nevada itself. This is only for our state to get out and celebrate walking and biking to and from school. And it helps us to remind drivers. They'll see messages. We've got a proclamation from the governor, and we remind drivers just to be mindful of kids also in your neighborhoods that might be waiting for a school bus. And we know that kids who walk and bike to school show up with active brains ready to learn. So if there's parents out there that want to do that and they don't know how, they can always reach out to Safe Routes to School with CAMPO or the state. We have a new Safe Routes to School coordinator. In fact, our active transportation for the first time in a long time is fully staffed. So I'm really proud of that. And we're trying to get stuff going. And that's my report. But again, I mentioned earlier, if this is new to me, so if there's any topics you'd like me to bring, just give me a heads up, and I'm happy to do what I can. So thank you.
Okay, good, thank you, thank you. One of the things I did hear at the NDOT board meeting, kind of alluded to what Chris had said earlier, with the new administration, the federal funding reimbursement process is different. So it sounds like apportioned funds will be coming through, but any grants are still being reviewed and on and off again, and you guys can watch the news as good as I can. And
Yeah.
you got to tune in every day. But
Yeah, thank you. And we do, so at the end of 2024, we received several notices saying that we got certain grants, but we were not able to get the agreements completed and the funding obligated, which is a process to get that going. And so those are on hold. The current administration is reviewing some of those on a high level, maybe looking at some of the programs, and will give us new guidance. And so we're waiting to hear from them. But I do feel very fortunate in our state because we have a very close relationship with our Federal Highway Administration, and we work really closely to them. So we've been collaborating and talking with them more verbally than through emails, but we've been doing that. So that's good too, because that one-on-one communication I think is really important.
Good. And if I remember right, when I used to sign off on the bills, you're being paid like usual. They haven't held up anything yet.
Well, I can say I haven't been told that we haven't been being paid, so I will say that's a good sign. I can't answer that directly, but I haven't been told we haven't been.
Okay. Hopefully they don't touch that.
No.
Their
If it's
commitments.
obligated, we've been told if it's obligated and we have the agreements, they can't mess with that. So we are going with that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. With that, we'll move on to item 6C, other comments and reports. Do we have any from anybody? Any news, upcoming events at all that you want to share? All righty. With that, we'll move to our last item, essentially public comment, number 7. Any other folks who want to talk at this point? Come on up and you get your 3 minutes and state your name and let us hear.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm here to just, I'm Dee Dee Formaster with the Rural Center for Independent Living. Sorry. I am here to just say that I am extremely excited about the new accessible van for Douglas County. You guys are doing wonderful work. We appreciate it. And I'm also here to, again, talk about the little yellow tickets for accessibility to the vans for people with disabilities. They are in, yes, 2 places. One is the city offices. The other one is on Bud-Eye Road. And both areas are not accessible by the bus. So I really want those tickets put at the library or someplace where people can get a hold of them, because they are not there at the library. And I really feel that right now, in the economic situation this world is in right now, people with disabilities have less money than a lot of seniors. And the reality is that they cannot afford to ride the bus. So it would be nice if they could have accessibility to the little yellow passes that they need to be able to get a discount ticket for the entire month. So right now, they are not accessible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a general question.
Sure.
Don't we have a bus stop right in front of City Hall?
No.
No.
I see it every day. Does it not stop there?
One thing. Chris?
Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, the Route 3 does stop in front of City Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Out my office door, so I'm like,
stop now in front of City Hall?
Route 3, okay.
Okay, Route 3. Because before it used to just run down Division.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
I swear I see it out my window. So,
Well, good.
all right, I just
Well,
wanted
good.
to clarify on the record, Route 3 does stop at City Hall.
Yes.
Maybe in the future, we can look at more accessibility or any structure in that we can talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Do we have any other public comments at this point? Nope, okay. With that, I will call the CAMPO meeting for closure, and we'll have about 10 minutes before we start RTC. 5? 5 is good for you? Okay, 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
we're going to call the Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schutte,
Here.
Commissioner Dotson, Commissioner Novak, Commissioner Maloney.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item 3, which is our opening public comment for Regional Transportation Commission. Is there any opening comment? Okay, then we're going to move on to agenda item 4A. This is the minutes of February 12th, 2025. Does any member have any corrections or changes? If not, I'll accept a motion, please. Member Schutte.
I move to approve the minutes of February 12th, 2025.
I will second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. We're now going to move to agenda item 5. This is discussion only. A presentation regarding the College Parkway and Fairview Drive pedestrian safety project, including the presentation of preliminary design concepts for various intersections included as part of the project. Casey, are you going to give us a briefing on this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Casey Sylvester, Transportation and Traffic Engineer. Today we're going to discuss safety concepts at the intersections on College Parkway and Fairview Drive. Oh, we're frozen.
We have to do this the old-fashioned way and use our packets.
Oh, you're correct, Chris, that I do need to press
Push
this.
the button.
And that worked, but now this, all right. So why don't we go ahead and flip onto our packet pages, and is that okay for me to go that way?
We can
without
do it,
All right.
absolutely. There's always worst-case scenario paper.
I'm sure it'll start working here in a second. That's just how
When you're done.
technology goes.
No, it'll work when you're done.
All right. So jumping over to slide 2. In 2024, staff began developing a safety project in Carson City. We built upon the local road safety plan with an extra focus on crash severity, vulnerable users, and high-value solutions. At the November 2024 RTC board meeting, we talked about 10 intersections that met criteria. 5 of those projects can be included, or 5 of those intersections can be included in their own projects in that area that are already ongoing, and the other 5 would be separated into a separate safety project. The intersection of Airport and College Parkway was originally planned to be in the District 1 College and Airport Pavement Preservation Project. However, because the scope of that project better aligned with this project, we moved it over into this one. So now we have 6 intersections that we're evaluating. So those intersections are College Parkway and Imperial, College Parkway and Northgate Lane, College Parkway and Airport Road, Fairview Drive and Gordon Street, Fairview Drive and Desatoya Drive, and Fairview Drive and Edmonds Drive. So jumping to slide 3, staff developed concepts at each of these intersections. Goals when developing the concepts include increasing driver awareness, enhancing pedestrian facilities, and high-value, low-cost solutions. These concepts are preliminary. Design has not begun on any of them. Staff plan to advance to design phase in the spring. So jumping over to slide 4, FHWA collects data nationwide on safety, and one of the things that they have developed is a list of 28 countermeasures that have been used successfully to improve safety at locations around the country. And those 28 recommended countermeasures are known as FHWA proven safety countermeasures. And we use those as a basis for determining concepts for this project. If in the following slides, locations of a green checkbox indicate a proven safety countermeasure. All right, jumping to slide 5. Imperial Way at College Parkway. This concept adds signage to meet MUTCD requirements, changes to markings to meet those requirements, and to add reflective strips similar to what we have on the roundabout, the signs at the roundabout on Stewart and Carson Street that have the reflective strip on there, and that increases driver awareness of those signs. We also want to add overhead lighting at this location and add a pedestrian refuge, and this turns the crossing into a two-stage crossing, so a pedestrian doesn't have to cross 5 lanes at once. They can do 2 and then wait and then 2 more. This does restrict the eastbound left turn at this location. I'll talk a little bit more about that restriction here in a moment, but let's jump to slide 6 and talk about Northgate Lane. This is a similar intersection. We're going to be doing upgrades to signage and markings to meet the MUTCD requirements. We're going to add that reflective strip onto the signpost to add that driver awareness from the extra retroreflectivity. We want to add a pedestrian refuge to provide that 2-stage crossing. In this case, we are restricting the westbound left turn. Jumping now over to slide 7, we're going to look a little bit at some of the different routing that happens with the restriction of the left turns. So starting first at Imperial Way, the volume of left turns at this location is 27 vehicles per hour, which equates to, and this is in the peak hour, this equates to less than 1 vehicle per 2 minutes. So during the peak hour, 1 vehicle per 2 minutes routed a different way into the neighborhood. As shown on the picture on the left, vehicles can continue downstream and turn in at Granite Way, or they can continue north on Carson Street and turn at Silver Oak. And Silver Oaks connects into Imperial from the other side, and drivers can get into the neighborhood from that way as well. Similar case over here on Northgate. Drivers are able to go downstream and turn in at Imperial, or further upstream, they can turn on Roop and then on Hot Springs, and they can access the neighborhood from Pine Lane and also from Northgate on the south and Imperial on the south. The traffic volumes are a little bit higher on the Northgate left turn. It's 73 vehicles per hour, which equates to slightly more than 1 vehicle per minute. But that, of course, will be distributed among the multiple options into the neighborhood depending on precisely where they're going and driver preference. All right, going to move on.
But can I ask just along the way, and then do we have the information versus the number of pedestrian accidents? I mean, when we're gonna stop left-hand turns into the neighborhood, they're obviously gonna be disruptive in their current methodology of entering their neighborhoods, because these are into neighborhoods
Yes.
that they're going. But the rationale is these are high traffic accident areas, correct? I mean, that's the whole reason we're
Yes.
selecting those. I just think it's important. Where's our NDOT representative over there? But I do want to understand on the record, it's not to be disruptive to the drivers. It's because these are high traffic areas of accidents. And so
That's correct.
we're suggesting that a pedestrian refuge is more important when we have other access points. So we're not blocking access points into a neighborhood where they're not going to have to go 3 miles out of their way to get into the neighborhood.
That's right, and that's something we looked into. On the Northgate case, we actually looked into having the refuge on the other side of the intersection, but that neighborhood does not access either of the neighborhoods on the sides of it. You have to go all the way over to Roop and then up to Arrowhead to get back into that,
Which would
or
be
go
quite a
around to Carson
distance.
Street.
Right.
It's a much larger distance, and there's actually fewer vehicles taking that movement, but we don't have like a hard rule of this much of a detour is too much, but we said, in this case, that's way too much of a detour, and so we didn't move forward with that concept.
No, and I think it's important that we're all discussing and recognizing that you're looking at every trade-off and every component, and saving lives of the pedestrians is certainly, rises to the top of the chain here, but it's also important not to back up 73 vehicles. But you were telling me on that one, they had 3 or 4 other access points.
They do. That's
So
correct.
that's okay. It's important. So we could spread those out. Those 70 vehicles might spread out. 25 of them are going to take each one of these different
Yeah.
routes in.
Mhm.
Okay, because I just don't want to transfer the problem is also a concern of mine, right? Yay, I solved it for here and all I did is move it on to somebody else's street. So
Exactly. And
You
I
don't
was kind
see
of
that as an
surprised
issue?
how low these left turns actually were. It kind of reinforced, oh, this is a good idea for this location.
thank you.
Okay, so jumping over to slide 8, this is the intersection of Airport Road and College Parkway. Because this is a T intersection, if we move the crosswalk to the west side, we're able to provide a pedestrian refuge without restricting access. So that seemed like a pretty easy solution. This is a wide road, pretty high speeds in this section of College Parkway. Made a lot of sense to provide that. We want to do the similar treatment with adjusting the signage, both for the new location of the crosswalk and to meet those MUTCD requirements, add the reflective strip to increase that driver awareness. We want to add lighting here. Because we're moving the crosswalk, there's not currently lighting on this side. And this will also include ADA enhancements because we'll be adding new curb ramps. So the cost for this intersection is $147,000. I don't know if I've been noting the costs on those previous slides. It's in my notes, but it's on the slides there. So we got 107 at Imperial and 83 at Northgate. Jumping over to Gordon Street, this is the intersection of Fairview and Gordon Street. We're taking a similar approach. At this location, we want to do upgrades to the signing and the markings to meet the MUTCD requirements, add that extra conspicuity with the reflective strip, draw drivers' attention a little bit. And we want to provide a pedestrian refuge on the crosswalk on the north side of the intersection. This will restrict that southbound left turn. I'm going to jump over to, I believe,
So they're going to enter the residential zone where? Because it's, where are you taking them?
On the next slide, we have the map that shows the different routing options.
We
And
can't
so I'm
see that with the
anticipating
dark.
almost all of these.
Pretty tiny, sorry.
Yeah.
Where are you taking them?
Ideally, I think it's most likely that most of the vehicles will use the turn that's immediately to the south. It's called Sweetwater. It's a short block and
It's
it's
a short
connected directly
block.
into that neighborhood. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm showing on here turning in at the two turns south of that, Walker, and I don't recall what this other street is. And then also being able to route by turning on Empire Ranch and taking Gregg Street down. But I don't anticipate very many vehicles are going to use those other routes. They'll be primarily using the Sweetwater way. Now, the number of vehicles here is pretty low. We did not have turn count data, but based upon what we know from the development that's in the area, how many dwelling units there are, we can use the ITE trip generation guide to estimate how many trips there are. The estimation on this, which I would say is kind of a higher end estimate, is around 25 to 27 vehicles per hour. And so that's pretty similar to Imperial Way. It's just less than 1 vehicle per 2 minutes. During the peak hour, yes. During the peak hour.
I see that neighborhood a lot. So do you think the vast majority of the traffic in that neighborhood is coming in on Walker? Do you have a count there?
I don't have a count for any of those intersections.
That's a bigger housing arena than well, there's a lot of houses there. I used to live off of Walker, so I'm like,
Okay.
oh, no. There's a lot of houses there.
I've spent quite a bit of time over there
Yeah.
as well, and I
But
would
Gordon
say that
is
Sweetwater
the
is
first
already.
one, right?
Gordon is the first one, right
Yeah.
there next to,
Yeah,
I think there's
across
two
from the
casinos there.
casino.
And I think that Sweetwater is already seeing quite a bit of traffic because
Right.
it's the connection into that neighborhood that's kind of further to the east there, as well as access to any of the neighborhoods that Walker and that other street access. And so I'm not anticipating the 1 vehicle per 2 minutes being a major difference in traffic. It is an addition, and we are expecting it to be concentrated there, but we're not expecting it to be a major difference. Again, I don't have counts on Sweetwater, so that's hard to say definitively.
No, I think it's gonna be the opposite, the complaints on the people on Gordon, not being able to use their,
Yeah,
I'm not thinking Sweetwater's gonna get mad at us, I'm thinking Gordon's gonna get mad at us,
yeah,
because they get off work and depending on which way, they're not gonna be able to turn,
Around the block.
they're gonna have to go around, but
Madam Chair?
I wanna be cognizant of everything that we're doing, because if you keep turning routes off, anyway, we're turning routes off. Lucia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this Gordon Street project, what was the reason we didn't put it on the south side of the intersection? Is that something that staff could look into? Because it does seem that there would be
Less
more
issue.
individuals making left turns southbound to Gordon than individuals making left turns northbound to the other side of Gordon.
to the casino side.
That makes a lot of sense, because there's other accesses to the neighborhood that are south of there, drivers. We can look into that.
Is that something we could look at? I think the mayor's comments, I've experienced that at that intersection too, and
And don't we already, if my memory's telling me correctly, coming from Gordon to the casino, we already aren't allowed to come out. So just look at that side. Something in my mind is just not processing this one as well as the others. So if you could just look at it, I'd be most appreciative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just really think there's already a casino restriction coming out of Gordon. No restriction coming out that one that says no left turns?
I don't think there's a
I
restriction.
don't think so.
I'm gonna go tonight. I go that way every day, so I'll look at it again. There's a restriction, it just might be in the casino itself. You can't come out that lane, might not be on the road, but I'll look at something, just so that my mind, but I don't think we'll have as much traffic concern if we put it on the other side,
Right.
so. thank you.
Okay. Based upon the concept we developed, the cost on this one was $110,000. I don't think that the moving it to the south is going to change that cost very much based upon the conceptual level that we're at now. So but we'll look into that. Okay. Jumping now to slide 11, Desatoya Drive. Desatoya Drive is another one of these T intersections. So if we move the crossing to the north side there, we can provide a pedestrian refuge without restricting access. This will include updates to signing and markings to meet the MUTCD requirements and to add that reflective strip to increase driver awareness of those signs. This intersection we would like to add lighting on, because there's not already. There are power lines on both sides of the road, and that makes it a little bit tricky, but we'll be evaluating different ways to go about providing lighting with this alternative. This will include ADA enhancements as we add curb ramps for the new crosswalk. Cost of this intersection, including those two lights that we show in the concept, is $147,000. The final intersection is, oh shoot, I turned my page the wrong direction. All right, the final intersection is Edmonds Drive. This one was a little bit tricky. The intersection is on a curve and it's kind of on a hill. And so that makes it a little bit difficult. You have the path ending right here, but we don't have any connecting pedestrian facilities at all. And the only connecting bike facility is that bike lane on the far side. We wrestled with this one a little bit, talked about a couple different things, and ultimately staff decided that we would recommend providing a pedestrian facility from the end of the path here down to the existing sidewalk, and then providing enhancements at the crosswalk, the existing crosswalk at South Lampa Lane in Fairview. And doing this, we can provide a facility for them to cross that has a little bit better sight distance as to what's coming. We would include improvements, signing, markings, overhead lights, and the reflective strip on the signs here. We are not currently recommending a pedestrian refuge at this location. The total cost of improvements, largely driven by the cost of the sidewalk extension, would be $294,000. All right, and moving on to our next slide. Project summary, all 6 intersections, including design and project management, $1.1 million. We're not anticipating any right-of-way impacts for this project. The concepts were specifically developed assuming we were not going to have any right-of-way impacts. Staff plan to submit for Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funding this week. I don't know if that's actually a grant, though. Let me rewind that. Highway Safety Improvement Program funding this week. That'll be talked about later in this meeting. If we are able to procure that funding, the expected local costs will be $235,000. Let's see here. The anticipated schedule, based upon an assumption that we use consultant design and that the Highway Safety Improvement Program application is approved and we're successful in getting that funding, we are looking at a schedule of 60% design in November, 90% in February of 26, plans complete in May of 26, with construction in maybe spring of 2027, maybe a little bit sooner than that, depending on how that all falls. Are there any questions?
City member.
Sure. I've got a couple. I drove them all today, and I thought overall you guys did
So I get there tonight.
you did a good job on these. Kind of echoing what the mayor is saying, do we have any process for public input? Because this is going to affect a lot of people, even though it's relatively minor. It's a surprise, right? And we'll see how that goes. And then kind of in concert with that, there's police, fire, EMS, waste management, post office, all the delivery folks. So I'm sure you're going to hear some about that you're changing something. And, have to give them a chance to get their input as well. But I think overall, the intent is to help out vulnerable users, and it's hard to argue against that. So I think in general, it's a good concept. I didn't see any, I don't know if you considered those rectangular rapid flashing beacons at all with the push buttons, or is that something we don't need at this point for any of these?
Well, that's a really good question. It's something we talked about internally. And so in general, it's stated, I don't recall if this is in the MUTCD or if it's an FHWA recommendation as part of the interim approval. No, it must be in the new MUTCD that there's a 35-mile-an-hour limit for when they recommend using rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And in that recommendation is based upon, among other things, the speed at which drivers are going and their ability to come to a stop safely based upon when they see those flashers. And so we decided not to move forward with any recommendations like that, since our criteria for these intersections was specifically higher speed roads. These are 40-mile-an-hour roads, and that would be in kind of violation of that recommendation. I am also a believer in sort of phasing what you can do to some degree, and so not wanting to throw the whole kitchen sink at a solution when you might get the desired effect with something simpler, such as that retroreflective strip. And this reminds me of a study, and I don't have the study offhand to reference, but there was a wrong-way driver study that was completed in Arizona, and they determined that it wasn't the most effective solution, but the highest benefit-cost ratio solution was putting a reflective strip on wrong-way signposts versus all of the flashing solutions with cameras and things you could do. It's not that those other solutions didn't work better, it's that they were way more expensive, and so this is a reasonable, hey, let's come in, let's do this. This is going to draw drivers' attention a lot more. And more than likely, we're not going to have to come back in here. And we're also not going to have a power bill we have to pay indefinitely.
I'm glad, I asked the question. You guys have discussed it as well. And I wasn't sure about MUTCD signing. At some point, are we going to go with larger street name signs at all, bigger letters? Because the older driver recommendation in this town has quite a few older drivers that we set essentially bigger signs as well. So I don't know if that really applies here or not, but keep that in mind as well.
That's a good question. We'll look into that.
Miss Maloney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple comments. One, on the Desatoya and Fairview project, when we installed the blinky lights back in, 2018, 2019, when we did that, we received several phone calls about concern from residents about lights in windows. And so I just want to encourage staff to do some outreach if that's possible with those lights that are proposed there. And to the extent possible, minimizing impact on windows.
Okay.
And then my second comment had to do with the project on Airport and College. I understand that this project grouped in all these intersections are funded by HSIP funds, which are 5% match. If for some reason staff get a response back that the project needs to scale, the crossing at Airport and College, those pedestrians are primarily pedestrians going from the neighborhood to our bus stop. And so that project is eligible for FDA funds. So that would be a good fallback, and I'm sure you guys are on it, to scale the project and maybe pull that one out where we could fund it with transit money later if needed. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Schutte?
For the Imperial and restricting the eastbound left, if the light that is on the northeast corner, if that was instead on the northwest corner, would that provide enough light and mitigation to perhaps take away the need for that mid pedestrian island? Trying.
So the question is, if we provide lighting more strategically at Imperial and College, would that negate the need for
Correct.
pedestrian refuge? Now, I believe that there is already lighting. I have to go back and look in the street view for certain what there is at this location, but both Imperial and North Gate already have some lighting.
Yeah, when I drove by it, I don't remember looking at the lighting. I was looking at the refuge potential. So, okay. I think, that's something to consider as well in terms, and then perhaps to avoid then blocking the left turn. Something to consider.
Okay. Mr. Dobson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question again is like Greg's, associated with the older driver issues. The yield to pedestrian signs, I find those very small. And I don't know if those scale up as the speed limit increases. But one of the things I've noticed in my own driving is that I have a tough time picking up that sign, particularly on a four-lane highway. It's over on the shoulder, it's real small, and I don't see it. And I've almost not stopped for pedestrians a few times. So it would really concern me, in these applications. This is on the one I noticed that was on North Carson Street, lower speed limit certainly than College. So understand the issue with the RRFBs, but maybe if you could take a look at that, increasing the size of that sign, I think it'd be helpful.
Absolutely. I believe that for a 4-lane road like this with a speed limit of 40 miles per hour or greater, it is an MUTCD shall requirement to use that sign. I don't recall off the top of my head. I do believe there are larger signs. I've had a similar thought driving on Carson Street that those signs could use to have something to draw their driver's attention a little bit better. And in this case, I think one thing that's going to help with that is that reflective strip, but I will absolutely look into oversizing these signs. So usually the MUTCD provides size for speed limit, and there's also an oversize category. We can look into using oversize in this case.
More questions? Okay, it's a non-action item, so we will move to agenda 5B. This one is for action. Discussion and possible action regarding the submission of 3 highway safety improvement grant applications to DOT for $308,750 for the Curry Street. Local match of $16,250 on that one. $689,034 for Solomon. Road School Routes Improvement Project. 5% on match on that one's $36,265. And $906,342 for the College and Fairview pedestrian safety projects we were talking about, with a match of $407,703. Kelly, how are you going to talk about this one, the applications?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner. So on January 7th of this year, NDOT opened applications for the HSIP funding. CAMPO's recently completed local road safety plan in April of 2024 has allowed the Carson City to apply for these potential HSIP projects. These projects include Curry Street, newly created Solomon Road project, and the College and Fairview Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, which we just heard about. So HSIP funding for Curry Street project will fund the removal of the utility barriers, the undergrounding of utilities, and the addition of lighting along the corridor, all considered proven safety countermeasures. The HSIP funding for the Solomon Road project will fund the radar
feedback signs, crosswalk lighting, raised medians, signal upgrades, ADA improvements, and sidewalk widening to improve safety and connectivity around Solomon Road, which includes 3 schools, Carson High School, Fremont, and Seeliger Elementary Schools. The tasks within this project have been prioritized both in the local road safety plan and the Carson City Safe Routes to School Master Plan. The HSIP funding for the College in Fairview project will contribute to the signing, the striping, and the pedestrian refuge islands Casey just mentioned before in the previous item. A successful pre-application meeting was held between Carson City staff and NDOT staff on February 19th, 2025. The attached exhibits include the HSIP fact sheet, a sample application that staff will be filling out for the 3 projects, and an example of the Curry Street funding summary for the CAMPO TIP. Potential funding from the HSIP program has been incorporated into all 3 projects and their respective TIP project sheets, as is referenced in the recent CAMPO TIP formal amendment earlier this evening within and CAMPO item. So if approved, staff will move forward with the applications for the HSIP funding for these 3 projects by the deadline of March 16th, 2025.
Thank you. Do we have to prioritize them if we put 3 applications in, do we say 1, 2, 3? Or no priorities, you just put them in?
Right now, all 3 of these projects are prioritized. As you know, Curry Street will be moving forward and has additional funding. So the Solomon Road project and the College in Fairview project will solely be funded through HSIP. So if we had to prioritize, that would be a question later on, but I think the other funding sources may come into play at that point. Hopefully, as indicated by the pre-application meeting, all 3 of these projects meet the requirements of HSIP funding and have been viewed successfully by the NDOT staff.
But
Mayor-
we're not
Madam Chair.
competing against a bunch of others.
Madam
for
Chair,
the
I mean,
same.
to Kelly's point on what NDOT has indicated is that they said submit as many as you want. We don't know what we're going to get, so feel free to submit. If this board would like to prioritize them, then that would be helpful direction to staff should NDOT come back to us and say, oh, we only got 500,000, which one do you want to do? That could be beneficial. But at our point, we don't have a prioritized rank. And as Kelly mentioned, NDOT says submit away.
Yeah, I love submit away, but somehow I have doubts that because everyone can apply for this, right? Not just Carson City.
Correct.
There'll be
There's
competition
also a
for
lot
the
of
money.
HSIP funding available.
Oh, really? I like that word.
Yeah, it should be about 30 million a year.
Yes.
And we did a local road safety plan, right? So
Right.
that's worth a lot. But-
Yes.
Mhm.
And from what you've seen on the scoring criteria, you think we can compete, your unofficial score on the scoring criteria?
But we're asking for $2 million, but you're thinking you don't want to prioritize. I guess that's my question is if staff needs direction for priorities, do we have a priority? If they come back and say, we're going to give Carson City 1.2 million or whatever, do we have priorities on these projects? Which are the most important? Ms. Maloney?
For me, I think leaning back on Kelly's comment on the Curry Street project, because that's already funded, I would say fund that first. The Solomon project seems standalone and critically needed. For me, it was my comments earlier on the Fairview and College projects. We're trying to fix as many intersections as we can, and I would trust staff's discretion to pull back on that 3rd project if we needed to.
So you're thinking it's 1, 2, 3 as listed, Curry, Solomon, Fairview. as they're written here as our priorities to help staff. Well, I like the $2 million answer. Just give it all to us. Because we have the match. I hope they just give us all three, but that kind of gives you some direction if they just don't see it our way. Okay, is there any public comment before we take action on this? No? Okay, I'll take a motion then. Ms. Schutte.
I move to approve the submission of the applications as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're going to move to Agenda 5C. This is for action regarding submission of a letter of intent and traffic safety grant application to Nevada Department of Public Safety Public Safety's Office of Traffic Safety. Boy, that's a mouthful. For $13,333, subject to a 25% local match of $3,333. Yeah, we're just really having fun with this one. For a comprehensive safety and education campaign aimed at increasing awareness of bicycle and pedestrian-related laws and reducing fatal and serious injury crashes, and authorization for the transportation manager to accept the grant if awarded. Scott, what's special about this one?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Bohemier, Western Nevada Safe Route School Coordinator for the record. Staff is seeking approval to submit a letter of intent and grant application for this funding. And these funds will support a public safety campaign aimed at reducing fatal and serious injuries. The campaign will use multiple outreach methods, including print, online, social media, and actually continuing our PSAs at the movie theater that I'm happy to say have reached about 100,000 people since we started that last year. So definitely looking forward to continuing that. We look to educate the public on safe driving practices, traffic laws related to bicycles and pedestrians, student bicycle and pedestrian safety, awareness of high-risk areas, and the importance of adhering to traffic regulations. By leveraging these communication platforms, we aim to reach a broad audience with impactful messaging to improve road safety. And we would appreciate your approval to move forward.
Does any member have
Any
a question?
questions?
Nope. I think education is always an answer, is always a answer, not the only one. But is there any public comment? Okay, I'll accept a motion, please. Mr. Dobson.
I move to approve the submission of the LOI and the grant application and to authorize the transportation manager to accept the grant if awarded.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We're now to agenda item 5D, discussion and possible action regarding amendment number 1 to contract 253-00202 for Nichols Consulting to provide additional cultural resources investigation services for the West Carson Vulnerable User Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, and to increase the contract amount by $12,000 for a new not to exceed total of $61,900. Casey, is there anything special you need to tell us about this one?
I don't think I have anything to add from what you've already said. Are there any questions on this?
Does any member have a question on this? Gotta do them, whether we like it or not, huh?
Yeah, my take is, I wish we used local money for this whole project, so you wouldn't have to jump through these hoops, but SHPO and all this architectural history have to do it, so,
Yep, no choices.
yeah.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none, Greg, you're ready for a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. We have to, just remember that sometimes.
Elections have consequences,
Uh-huh.
okay. I move to approve the amendment as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Okay, we're now, thank you. We're now on to agenda item 6A, the Transportation Manager's Report. Mr. Martinovich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. A few items I wanted to highlight today. The first one I wanted to highlight is that if it's not installed already, it will soon be installed, is a new street light in the median of North Carson Street at Nye Lane. We've got that agreement with NV Energy in place, and any day now there could be a new median street light at that location, at that crosswalk, to highlight that at night. So I've been moving forward with that. It's been a long process, I understand, but working with NV Energy can sometimes be a long process. So continuing to make progress on safety fronts across Carson City tonight. Another effort we've been working on internally at Public Works is reviewing our bid item descriptions and our bid item list for construction projects. These are items such as construct new asphalt pavement, traffic control, remove and replace curb and gutter. Over the years, we've had a long list of inconsistencies, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging for us to review project cost year over year. And so if we can streamline this, if we can provide a consistent, repeatable list of projects and items, we'll be able to, one, better estimate our projects going forward, and two, be able to review prices that we get back from contractors for consistency and other items that they may place in their bids that we're not familiar with. So that effort is undergoing with our construction management team and myself and our city engineer, and so just sitting down and working through the different sectors and all those line items. Just wanted to make you aware of that, looking to streamline that effort going forward. We're also continuing to work on our Jack solar light and sign project. We've identified a number of stops where we're going to install the solar light. We're reviewing the sign poles and making sure we're not going to put lights or new signs on dilapidated or falling down poles. So we're out doing all that survey and all that research so we can put a bid package together later this summer and get that effort completed. And that concludes the items that I have on my list. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Member question? We'll move to agenda item 6B, our street report, operations report, please.
On the street operations report, I wanted to highlight that in January of 2025, we did 417 potholes. You'll notice fiscal year to date was 679, which means we've done the majority of pothole filling in January. I'm understanding from our street supervisor, Greg King, that this is a very, very high, above average number of potholes we're filling. So there are a lot of potholes out there, and we're continuing to fill them. They're growing, as we all know, as our streets deteriorate, but they're out there the best they can, and they're out filling them across the city. Otherwise, January was generally a dry month, so you'll note that there was a lot of sidewalk and flat work done in January, which is unusual. We were able to get out there as it was drier and a little bit warmer in some of those days. And so doing some of the activities during the wintertime that we would normally be doing in the summertime, able to take advantage of that weather. Otherwise, I don't have any other comments related to the street operations report at this time.
Does anybody else have a question or comment? Okay. Agenda item 6C. Does any member have any comments or anything to share?
Madam Chair, I wanted to note one thing, and perhaps was noticed by any of the members here, is that on our revenue sheet, if you look at packet page 87, the table on the bottom of that is the basic city county relief tax, 0.25% sales tax. You'll note that for November of 2025, the amount received was $152,000. That's not the actual number. We're waiting. That's only half a month's worth of data. We're waiting for the other half of the month to arrive. But that's the amount that we've got at this time. But I would expect that to be double, hopefully at least double that when we get the final amount in for that month. So it's not that sales tax has dropped off. It's that we only got half because of a transition of the state's financial system.
Yeah, they're getting a new computer system, and so they only released half of the dollars because I guess they don't want to take any back. They felt shorting everyone was a good answer, and then they would true it up, and they're already late for the true up that they told us. So it's not just on the sales tax here, it's all of our sales tax. I'm here to tell you we noticed when you only get a half a month's distribution, and then your concern is, I hope they have this wrapped up and fixed, because then it will start to become a cash flow issue, right? It's like, what? We only get half? And I will kindly say they did not notify us in advance that they were doing this. That was even more fun. So at first we had the comment that he had, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Nobody bought anything for November. Yeah, so anyway, it's an interesting thing, but thank you. And nobody else, anything else? Okay, is there any final public comment? No? Okay, well then we are adjourned as RTC, and thank you all for a good meeting.
Thank